Hello and welcome. Our today's topic is Magneto ignition system. But before discussing the magneto ignition system, we will discuss what is the ignition system. The ignition system is required for complete combustion, and the ignition system must supply properly timed high voltage spark to each and every spark plug installed in an internal combustion engine. The ignition system is required to generate an electric spark with enough heat for combustion of air and fuel mixture inside the combustion chamber, to maintain the spark long enough to allow the mixture burn completely, and to deliver the spark at right time for each cylinder for complete combustion. Now, the types of ignition system. The conventional ignition system is divided into two types: battery or coil ignition system and magneto ignition system. Both the conventional ignition system works on the principle of mutual electromagnetic induction. Now we will discuss the magneto ignition system. A magneto is a little electric generator, and in magneto ignition system, magnet placed inside the coil. The coil having primary and secondary winding will produce and supply required current to the primary winding. Types of magneto ignition system. The magneto ignition system has two types. First, rotating magneto with fixed coil. In this system, the magnet is rotating inside a fixed coil to generate the current for the ignition. And second is rotating coil with fixed magneto. In this system, the magnet is fixed and coil is rotated around the fixed magneto to generate the current. Magneto is used for producing and supplying current to primary circuit, and other components are same as of the battery ignition system. Magneto ignition system components. The magneto ignition system mainly consists of a ignition switch, a transformer coil which also serves the function of ignition coil, and as in the battery ignition system. Magnet which rotates inside the transformer core, contact breaker, distributor rotor, distributor contact points, and spark plug. Figure will show the ignition system of 4-cylinder petrol engine. Here there are 4 spark plug and 4 contact breaker points on the contact breaker cam. As we can see in this picture, there is a ignition coil or a magneto coil. Over this coil, the primary and secondary windings are placed, and this magnet is rotated inside the coil to generate the current, and the magnet is connected to the contact breaker cam, which has the 4 points, as we have 4 cylinders or 4 spark plugs, a capacitor to increase the intensity of spark, and our distributor which has the 4 contact points and 4 spark plugs in 4 cylinders. And these lines, the solid line denotes the primary winding, and the dotted line denotes the secondary winding, as we can see in this picture. Before discussing the each and every components, let's discuss the working of magneto ignition system briefly in picture here. In this magneto ignition system, there is a transistor coil or a coil for the ignition system. It also replaces the ignition coil, the transformer coil, and in this coil the magnet is made to rotate. As in a battery ignition system, we can rotate the engine with the help of starter motor, or because the magnetic ignition system is used for the small vehicles, so if there is no starter motor, then we have to rotate the magnet by any external means, like we kickstart our vehicles, and with the help of kick we rotate this magnet inside the coil, or we in case of rotating coil, we rotate the coil with the help of kick mechanism. The contact breaker can take care of the sparks and duration of pulses, and then current goes to the distributor, and in the distributor the current is supplied through the contact points to the required spark plug, which is connected to respective points, like you can see this picture. Number one plug is connected to spark plug number one, and so on. As the current is given to the spark plug, and spark plug produce the spark and ignite the charge inside the combustion chamber. This is a brief introduction of working of magneto-ignition system. Now we will discuss the components one by one of the magneto-ignition system. First of all, the ignition switch. It's a key member because it will switch on or off the ignition circuit, and the transformer core. This is also a primary member because it also works as a ignition coil, which is the function to step up the uh, voltage to the required value to produce a healthy spark inside the combustion chamber. And the transformer core has two main parts, and it has a function to step up the voltage to high voltage, which is sufficient to produce spark at the spark plug. And it consists of two electrical windings. The first is primary winding and is connected with the link to contact breaker and capacitor, as we have seen in the picture, and the secondary winding, which is connected to the distributor, which is having a rotor to distribute the spark as per the requirement of the firing order. The contact breaker. This is a mechanical device making and breaking the primary circuit to the ignition coil. When the points are closed, the current flow in the ignition coil or the transformer core, and when it open, the flow of current is stopped. Then next component is distributor. The distributor used in a multi-cylinder engine to regulate the spark in each and every spark plug at a correct sequence. It distributes ignition surge in the individual spark plug in correct sequence. Spark plug. Spark plug has two well insulated electrodes which are separated with each other. Electrodes usually made up of high nickel alloy, so it can withstand high temperature and corrosion resistance. A high potential discharge flow through it, which generates spark and ignite the combustion mixture in the cylinder. It mainly consists of steel shell and an insulator, and central electrode connected with the supply of ignition coil through distributor. There is a small air gap between shell and the central electrode where spark is generated. Working. As when the engine starts rotating or during cranking, magneto rotates, which generates a very high voltage, and the ignition switch must be in closed position to supply the current to the fellow components, and the contact breaker closes, and low voltage current will flow through the primary winding, which is generated inside the magneto unit, and the contact breaker open and closes the circuit four times for the four cylinder, or six times in the six cylinder. It will be equal to the number of cylinders present inside the engine. As the contact breaker opens the contact, the magnetic field begins to collapse. And due to collapsing magnetic field, the current will be induced in the secondary winding and voltage is stepped up to the required amount. Um, as in case of automobiles, it is near about 20,000 volts to the 30,000 volts as per the requirement of the vehicle set by the manufacturer. This high voltage current is brought to the center of distributor rotor, and rotor rotates and supplies this high voltage current to proper spark plug depending upon the engine firing order. High voltage current jumps the spark plug gap and it produces the spark. The charge is ignited due to the spark produced at the spark plug, and the combustion inside the combustion chamber starts. And product of combustion, the gases expand inside the combustion chamber or in engine cylinder, which push the piston downward, and the downward motion of the piston produce power at the crankshaft. This is all about the components and working of magneto ignition system. Now we will discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of magneto ignition system. Now let's discuss few advantages of magneto ignition system. First of all, require less maintenance as compared to the battery ignition system because it has less components and it is compact in the size, and as there is no battery, and ignition coil and transformer core serves the same function as on the battery ignition system. Recharging is not required as there is no battery installed in this system, and efficiency improved due to high intensity of spark plug, and it is efficient at high speeds, and that's why it is used in racing cars for due to this advantages of magneto ignition system. Now we will discuss the disadvantages. During starting, the quantity of spark is poor due to low speed of rotating magnet or rotating coil, and but at higher speed it works well. But at low speed, this is its drawback, that there is less current produced, and at spark is poor due to less current produced inside the coil. Little expensive as compared to battery ignition system. This is all about the magneto ignition system. Now we will discuss about the next topics in next videos. Until then, keep watching and subscribe. Thanks.